on this episode of the Dubcast. You've got me, Poletti, and joining me is our Asian football expert, Matt Olsen. And today we've got a special treat for you because we're doing our power rankings ahead of the AFC Women's Asian Cup, which will be hosted here in Australia, kicking off in Perth on Sunday, the 1st of March. Matt, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here to chat all things AFC Women's Asian Cup, a topic that I know you absolutely enjoy.
Yeah, look, I think I was the only sicko in the entire country that watched the Bangladesh-Myanmar game to qualify for this stage. Yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? It's a tournament on home soil, and whilst being the AFC sicko that I am, there are definitely some criticisms I can even label at the structure of the tournament and things like this. You just can't not want to embrace the fact that the big football organisations want to call Australia home for a reason on the women's scene, and this is certainly an occasion that we need to make the absolute most of for a multitude of reasons. And then there's all the other talking points of what the increased profile and professionalism of women's football is like globally, and how our little corner of the globe is going to witness that on a bigger scale in 2026. So, yeah, I'm really excited to get tucked in. And to be fair, we were talking for a long time about what the first semblance of Women's Asian Cup content is going to look like, and I think we both settled on this idea pretty clearly. So, yeah, just looking forward to it, bloody.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of Women's Asian Cup content across the Dubcast over the course of the tournament. But as Matt mentioned, our first piece of content is going to be these power rankings. We're going to go group by group, team by team, and then we're going to give you all the rankings together at the end. And what better place to start than with the host of the tournament, Australia, who last hosted in 2006, that tournament taking place solely within the confines of the city of Adelaide. Australia's best result at the tournament, champions in 2010, and their last appearance at the tournament was a 2022 quarterfinal loss to South Korea, Matt.
Look, I think the biggest thing that just sticks out is the annals of history make it feel wrong that the Matildas only have one Asian Cup. My mind goes back to Jordan 2018. We really should have been the favourites. And that was an Asian Cup that we'd really made all the mistakes possible in the semi-final and the final. A Thailand team that we beat 5-0, a few months earlier in Perth. We then took the penalties, and it was just like, what's going on here? And that just seems to be, I think, the historical context for what this is all about. I mean, we know what happened in 2022, and you can play that story over and over again. And it's going to leave a sour taste in our mouth, because had we not been the World Cup host, we wouldn't have gone. So to now be here hosting it, and you want that Matildas fever post-World Cup boom to continue. You want that replication of England and hosting the Euros and winning it, and women's football finally being on that stage. So I think there's all the right reasons for the tournament to be here in Australia. But I think the other thing is let's just get rid of that ugly drought dating back to 2010, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and the way that the tournament has been set up, they've certainly got every chance to do so. Whilst they will be the most travelled team throughout the group stage, the only team that will play in all three cities, if I've got my memory right off the top of my head, as they'll start in Perth, then head to the Gold Coast, then head to Sydney. But it's been set up from there, if they top the group, that they will then stay in Sydney for the duration of the tournament, and certainly don't want to end up in a situation like the men did in 2015, where again, the tournament was set up. If they were to win their group, they'd stay in, like the path would have been set out, and then all of a sudden they didn't top the group, and they were sent on a little bit of a chase. Maybe history will be just as kind, given that the Socceroos won that tournament in 2015, but certainly all set up for the Matildas to do well. One of the benefits of being the host nation.
Yeah, look, I don't know that it's a really, really big problem. I think that sort of Perth to Sydney bounce is is nothing really when you look at their strength and conditioning and what's available to these women. I mean, we have an extremely elite female pathway, strength and conditioning. It becomes a problem for a lot of the other nations at this tournament. Let's not beat around the bush, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem. And to be honest, even with some injury problems that might come up, and we know who's more injury prone than others. I just don't think it's going to be a factor for the Matildas. There's maybe concerns around why Perth Stadium is getting a semi-final. The Matildas aren't in it, but that's a whole other conversation. So
it is indeed. We'll take a look now at South Korea. Their best result is runners-up in 2022, which is also their last appearance at a Women's Asian Cup. But things not necessarily all well in South Korea camp.
Look, I reflect on a segment I did with South Korean football journalist Albert Kim. Now he's Californian, technically speaking, not fully native South Korean, but he's spent a lot of time in Seoul, and he goes back and forth fairly frequently. So he definitely knows a lot about the football scene on the ground, and can tell you everything there is to tell you about South Korean football. And I brought up the concept of sort of women's football and what South Korea need to do to make that jump up to the bigger teams here. And I think the one thing he really pointed out is when you think of just like the role in everyday life that South Korean girls kind of play, I think and I want to be careful of the way I phrase it, where even countries like Vietnam, North Korea, China have certain human rights issues and things like this, the one thing that those nations have always been able to really get right is the position of the equality of these women, and solely within the sort of framing of AFC football. Let's just be honest about that. Those countries are superior with the opportunity that they are able to give female footballers. That transition has just never made its way through to the South Korean women's side in any sport. We know that the likes of baseball and softball are really popular in that part of the world. A South Korean softball team has never really been given their fair dues at an Olympic Games. This is it. I think it is really just a proper hardened-on cultural stigma that means it's impossible to give South Korean women a platform. But there's something fascinating going on right now where in these worlds of gaming and culture, these K-pop bands, we obviously know that the cultural influence of the Netflix program that's kind of been going on. South Korean women are being heard for the first time, and especially in this climate, it is grounds to want to, I think, really empower the players in the squad, really remind ourselves that this is a team that's still probably top 15, top 20 in the world because of what's just naturally available to them within their own country. And that it's crazy to think that even in the face of such systemic misogyny, South Korean football can really find its feet in the women's game. I think it's quite the complement to what the women in the squad can achieve. Now, for them to kind of point the finger at the KFA and say, "Hey, now's our time. Look at what Australia and Japan do on the regular with women's football. Why exactly can't that be us?" And it's such a valid question. The KFA have still really honestly not seemed to be really that shook by it, and this is a problem, and this is why the question of the boycott is still kind of looming. At least obviously we're recording this in early February, so there's only so much we can sort of say right now. But I think the biggest thing is, when you look at the history of this tournament, those two nations in China and South Korea, Australia, Japan have won it for historical reasons. Obviously, Chinese Taipei/Taiwan have gone on to win the tournament. South Korea have only ever been, at best, a runner-up. And I think that really speaks volumes about the position of their inability to excel. And I think by really calling out the KFA and saying now is the time, I just think it's really, really quite emotionally empowering and quite a real sort of sign of optimism of the fact that if something comes of this, South Korean women's football can really begin to boom into the future.
We'll have a look at Iran now. Their last appearance and their first appearance at the tournament was a group stage exit in 2022, and this will mark just their second appearance at the Women's Asian Cup, Matt.
Yes, Iran's brief history in really establishing themselves as a fairly, I would say, mainstream kind of women's team in the AFC now. A lot of that has come at the expense of Jordan. So obviously Jordan hosted the 2018 Asian Cup, and that was a really big moment for the Arab world and just embracing and empowering females there. And then a funny little thing happened where to qualify for India, Iran faced Jordan, and the game went, although they had to go to penalty kicks, essentially in like a dead heat scenario. Iran win on penalties, just a freak of nature game, you know. And then come 2026, or technically speaking 2025, those same teams are at it again. The odd arch nemesis, Iran and Jordan. Iran, once again, creeping their way through. And you know what? In recent years, we've seen them really hold their own, certainly against their Central Asian neighbours in Uzbekistan, the likes of Taiwan, the likes of Vietnam, a team that even, you know, were pretty stubborn when they played the Matildas in Perth, right? Like, I think they've got it in them to be a real nuisance. The issue is just about, obviously, the creativity, being able to be, you know, an efficient, high-scoring and threatening team. It's just not in their repertoire. So that obviously becomes a problem when, you know, Australia are going to have goals in them, you know, South Korea are going to have goals in them, and you know the Philippines will always be a threat and be very, very physical. So where Iran go, I don't know. And sorry, I'm skipping a little bit because we're going to talk more of the substance later. But yeah, just as far as, again, it's a country where women don't have a lot to be empowered by in their everyday lives. So just having the team there, and the women's futsal team are like a World Cup, you know, performing team, one of the best teams in Asia. So a lot that is done right by the Football Federation in that space, and yeah, full power to them, whatever they can come here and achieve.
Yeah, and then the last team in Group A is the Philippines. Their best result was the semi-finals in 2022. Before that, a sixth place in 2018, and then a bunch of group stage results after that, Matt. Or yeah, before that, I should say.
Look, the influence of Australian football on them over time has been obvious. That's how they got to the World Cup. It's how they rather miraculously won that famous day in Wellington. And, you know, Takasa has basically stayed the whole way through, right? Since those Olympic qualifiers that were in 2023. And this is what the project's all been about. Go to the Asian Cup, make, you know, an absolute showing of yourself, and go be a World Cup team that can go on to bigger and better things. It's absolutely the right platform that's being set up for them. The only thing with the Philippines now is obviously, you know, the better known players are taking a backseat and a role there now. You know, I don't even know if Serena Bolden is going to be around, let alone be the prolific player that she was. Someone like Angie Beard isn't in there, but at her age, you know, you got to ask questions. And yeah, look, I don't know if they're really at their best, but they've obviously built the structure for younger and lesser known players to be able to come here and provide a spark. I think the one thing for the Philippines is, and again we'll touch on it more later, but I think they're just stuck in really just like the bang average kind of middle pack of Asia's elite, right? I don't think they've got it in them to be as good as a China or a North Korea or a Japan or an Australia, but they're easily better than everyone else. So where that matters coming into this group, and again, if South Korea are all good and everything's going ahead, that game really shapes up as one that's going to define the future direction of the Philippines.
Yep, we'll move on now to Group B, and we will start with North Korea. So they've been three-time champions of the tournament, 2001, 2003, and 2008. They've had strong success at underage tournaments in recent memory. We're quite unsure how that will translate to success at the senior level, given that it's been quite a long time since we've seen the senior team in action. They lost to Japan in 2024 Olympic qualification. Their last appearance at an Asian Cup was 2010. Do you want to tell us why?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think I need to tell us why. But look, the thing is, we just can't not slate them as an A+ tier team. I think the thing with North Korea is, right, if to people who don't really get it, to people who think it's some sort of propaganda exercise or whatever, you have to just understand that, like, the daily lives of 15 to about, let's say, 19-year-old women and girls, especially those in sport, they have other personal commitments going on. Really, mostly what I'm referring to here is that they're getting an education, whereas the military recruitment and the sporting infrastructure in North Korea is such that at the age of 14 or 15, you can essentially become a fully fledged professional footballer, and be well backed and well funded and get state-of-the-art facilities in China to go and train at, and things like this that obviously just make them the best in the world. It's why they go on and win the youth tournaments. Now, North Korean football's at a really important sort of fork in the road, because the world of women's football isn't what it was when they were last relevant. Do you know what I mean? Like, it actually is starting to improve. Professional women's footballers are around at the age of sort of 17, 18, 19 in a way that they weren't before. So it won't be long before those U20 World Cup titles are a thing of the past. And for the senior team, it's especially alarming because the gulf between North Korea, Tua, Japan, and Australia, maybe not now, maybe in 26 they could win the thing, but, 4 years' time, 8 years' time, it's obsolete. Like, with all due respect, it's obsolete, right? So it's really just the big question mark of how do they keep their status, how do they maintain it, how do they go to a tournament like this and really prove their worth? And it's a big question. And look, again, North Korea being just the place that it is, you're very careful about, and obviously you would know with getting sort of the accreditation stuff, there's been a lot of the Department of Foreign Affairs and things having to step in purely because a country like North Korea is at this tournament. And for all of us in this space, I think we've obviously been very respectful of that. But for all of the mystery, for all of the memes and everything like that aside, for the possibility of a North and South Korea, quarterfinal or semi-final, and just the press attention that is going to get and the intrigue that's going to get, just on face value as a football team, listen, they're still really good and they're going to be fun to watch. And I feel like the football does come first, I'm one of those people that will never, ever, ever be like, oh, well, sport and politics shouldn't mix. I think sport is inherently a political thing, but I think there still is a place where you put sport first. And in that vein, we've got to commend North Korea on being a good football team when they're on our shores here.
Yep. So basically, the TLDR there is obviously there was suspension due to I think it was deer glands, wasn't it? Off the top of my head, I think was the official reason given by North Korea. Look, Sam Lewis, friend of the pod, did a fantastic piece on it for the ABC while she was there. We'll put a link to that in the description so you can go and read that. A long read, but a read much worth looking at, if I do say so myself. We'll move on now to China. They are 9-time champions of the Women's Asian Cup, including 7 straight between 1986 and 1999. Their last appearance was in 2022, where they last won the tournament as well.
That was a farce. The 2022 Asian Cup was a farce. I much prefer the 2018 edition. Obviously it ended up being COVID-19 impacted, and just a lot of really poor conditioning, poor coaching decisions across the board. Every game just sucked. And it really paved the way for China to go and win it. So, look, I really want to discredit the fact that we're talking about the Asian champions here, because as far as the global standard is concerned, look at what they've actually gone on and achieved since. Yeah, that they were absolutely miserable at the World Cup. Like they barely got past Haiti. They were absolutely demolished by England. Denmark really should have done a lot more of a number on them as well. And in the time since, when they've gone to those international friendlies, when they've played European teams, did England not smack them 6 or 7-0 or something most recently? So, I would be worried, and I know, like we live in a world where Qatar are two-time men's champions and China are the current women's Asian champions. These tournaments just find a way to never make sense. Do you know what I mean, Poletti? And I just, the thing is, they are, you can book them to be a semi-final team, such as the way that the depth and the draw of the tournament will work out. But I really just think it's a similar enough vein to North Korea. By every concernable metric, that the gap between China to Japan and Australia, I think, should just naturally be too big. And full power to them, full power to the way that they maintain relevance. We obviously have just had Wuhan, knocked out of the women's, World Cup by a Moroccan team as well. And that's something on paper that really, for a global standard shouldn't have happened. So I think be optimistic for what the team's about, but one of those teams where they're almost too good for you to then kind of put expectations on them, and it's because of those expectations that we're at where we're at.
And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if China go on to do fantastic things at this tournament, possibly even win it by topping their group as well, because they've also got Bangladesh in their group, who will be making their debut at the Women's Asian Cup, Matt.
Look, I feel like I've got to be honest about what I'm about to say, because we're about to do the power rankings, Poletti, and if Myanmar were in those power rankings, they would be slotting in at about 8th or 9th. They're a quality team. They've been to the last Asian Cups. They've never been blown out of the water at Asian Cups. And one fateful night against Bangladesh where it just went a little bit awry, and all of a sudden we've got a team here that has no, respectfully, Bangladesh has no business being at this tournament. I feel like they've actually done a disservice to us being able to showcase Asian football better. And look, it doesn't feel great when we're talking about a 12-team tournament and we're talking about a team this far down the pecking order. And again, look, I can appreciate that South Asian men's football is just so far off the pale right now. And it's good that they are able to have both India and Bangladesh here really flying the flag. It's inherently a healthy thing. And to the South Asian communities that live in Western Australia, in New South Wales, that are going to be coming in their droves, go have some beers with your friends, go have the time of your life, cheer your guts out, please. Bangladesh are going to offer a lot on a emotional level to the tournament. But they are just so far below where we need to be setting the standard as a confederation right now. And again, looking at the group, it's just not going to get much easier for them. I think you've got a lot of ambition there. You've got a lot of teams that need to prove a point as well. And teams that, if they want to go out and smack you 5 or 6-0, they will do it. So... But look, clearly again, the win over Myanmar happened for a reason, right? So if they've got goals in them, if they've got a good counter-attacking style, again, we'll dissect it a little bit later. But yeah, that's Bangladesh.
And then the last team in Group B is Uzbekistan. It'll be their first tournament appearance since 2003. Best result has been group stage exits between 1995 and 2003, but they've already got their seat locked in for the 2029 tournament by virtue of the fact that they'll be hosting it. Do you expect Uzbekistan to do a lot here, Matt?
They haven't been at the tournament since 2003. It feels false when you say it out loud. Do you know what I mean? It's just the Central Asian corridor is clearly an area where, again, very traditionalist countries, very sort of authoritarian countries, you can see why they've had that appeal in being able to give the platform to the women's team. And on an individual level, they have some just incredibly inspiring women in the team. They don't know how to score goals. The problem is, I just don't you can be excited by the prospect of what Uzbekistan might be able to do, but the one thing you can't do is have confidence in them, and that's the worry. So again, where a lot of these teams fall flat is just the depth and the quality really letting them down. And I think Uzbekistan's one of those teams where on their day, they can be pushing the Philippines for 6th or 7th. But, the reality of the situation is if they have a particularly bad game against your Pot A team, against your China, you're looking at a team that could be like 11th best. And yeah, it's something you don't want to see because, again, I think with Iran, with India, with Bangladesh, we just kind of need that Western Asian side of the Confederation to really just put women's football on the map. And so I wish Uzbekistan the best, but we saw it with that 10-0 result in the Olympics qualifier. They're going to struggle.
Yeah, we'll head over to Group C now, kicking things off with Japan, two-time champions of the tournament in 2014 and 2018, and in 2022 it was semi-finals for Japan.
Look, they're Asia's number one. With the transition that Australia are in, I get fully what Montemuro is building, what the vision is, the fact that this is a multi-year project that we're building to. But Japan are just not going to put a foot wrong. They just aren't. And all the more reason as to why we live in a world where their men's team have not been able to claim an Asian Cup, and the women's team, obviously, bizarrely, were not champions in 2022. And I think, again, you just got to come into this tournament with the same mindset. Like, obviously, playing in front of 60,000 in Perth, playing in front of 80,000 in Sydney is one prospect that is going to be potentially that equaliser in an Australia-Japan showdown, right? But again, you're looking at the dynamics of the draw. I could be right or wrong in saying that this is actually kind of fascinating in that most scenarios actually make it out that Japan and Australia will be the semi-final and not the final. And I've got to say, I get that there's 3 groups and you can't actually do the even spread and actually seed teams properly because you would have your 4, but your 4 can't go. And yeah, it worries me because to be honest, like it should be a Japan-Australia final. And so if they're not there in the final, it really upsets me because just no one's coming close to them. So, yeah, again, sorry, I keep getting into the substance when I'm just supposed to introduce the teams here. But what else can you say? Seriously, what else can you say? They are just so far above the rest. And again, much like Australia only having 1 title, Japan only having 2 feels a little wrong. Both in the 2010s as well, which it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you mean. In order for the 2 to avoid each other in the semi-finals, one of them would have to fall out of top spot of the group, which would mean 2 trips to Perth for one of the teams, depending on which one fell out of top spot. We'll move to Vietnam now. Their 2 best results of the tournament have been 6th place finishes in 2014 and 2022. Now, for a tournament that has, historically never really had more than, 14 teams, I think off the top of my head, the idea of, determining 6th place finishes seems insane. But what you have to remember, of course, is that the Women's Asian Cup has also doubled as World Cup qualification.
Yes.
And this will actually be the final year that it doubles as World Cup qualification. And so Vietnam losing the World Cup qualifying matches in both of those. Or in 2014, 2022.
They're at the World Cup. They played in they played in New Zealand against Portugal and the USA.
Yes, that's right. Yes, because it was the way that the things worked. Yes, so they won their World Cup playoff match in 2022. They lost it in 2014.
Yes. Yep. Look, Vietnam. The thing is, right? Like with ASEAN, Philippines have just punched so far above, and obviously the Southeast Asian Games and ASEAN Cup are just so unbelievably massive, and we've really not caught the bug over here in Australia, unfortunately. But the Philippines winning that Southeast Asian Games gold medal, I think for the Vietnamese mentality, it's just really stung them because this is a country that, again, historically in line with more of the far left states. I want to find a word to be able to describe China, North Korea, Vietnam more appropriately, but I just can't. So we're going politics for now, and I sincerely apologise. But basically, these countries. You remember in 2005 when Recoba came out and spoke about like Uruguay has a divine right because of what happened in the 20s and 30s. I look at Vietnam on paper and I'm just like, by divine right, you're going to be in the knockouts. Do you know what I mean? Like, pencil them in for second. Just do it. Just do it already. Like, they contribute enough to the heart and soul of women's football in Asia. They are a competitive and fun team to watch. I don't think anyone's going to watch a Vietnam game and be like, "Oh, that sucked." It only sucks when you're going up against the Netherlands and losing 7-1 because you're a bunch of girls from the coast in Vietnam and it's freaking 4 degrees in Dunedin. Yeah, that's going to happen. You know what I mean? So I actually quite like them as a team. If they are going to be a playoffs team, a quarterfinals team, I think I'd want them to go out and represent the AFC. So I think again it's unfortunate in that the dynamics of the tournament make it a little too predictable for where they stand. But if they've got an upset in them in a semi-final, I'm all for it on Australian soil. I think again the Vietnamese community is one that we don't exactly have a lack of, and like again wherever that game will be, whether it's Perth, Sydney. Yeah, the local area will be going gangbusters with Vietnam making a major semi-final. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yep, we'll move on now to India, whose best result at the tournament were runners-up in 1979 and 1983, but in a more modern setting of the tournament. Group stage exits in 1995, 97, 99, 2001 and 2003. Their last appearance at the tournament was 2022 when they were hosting that Asian Cup, but were marked to have been officially withdrawn during the group stage due to a COVID-19 outbreak within the team, not leaving enough players medically cleared to compete, which, you know, kind of disappointing, to be honest. I would have liked to have seen them maybe try something, even though I think the one game they played, they didn't exactly put up a memorable showing, shall we say.
G-rated program. I want to drop a lot of profanities at the situation because, like again, what I'm saying with these countries, they're like their part of the world just needs this, and they brought in this coach from Germany, like they were the only sporting organization on planet Earth that has had to leave their own, like a sporting event that they are hosting because of COVID-19 complications. It's like maybe there's another case in like college basketball in the US or something. Sorry. But really, honestly, like that hurt. It hurt because it was India's time to be like, hey, by the way, we do this football thing in this country. Like, you know, I know the women's cricket team finally broke the duck of those bigger countries and won a World Cup. And it was freaking earth-shattering back home, yeah? Like, they just gave women a platform, and it happened in the freaking cricket. Like, this was our chance, you know? And I just, again, I look at it because I think, rather unfortunately, and again, we know what's been going on with the ISL and everything like that, like, Indian football's just imploding, and 2022 was the chance. Like it's enough to make any man or woman furious. They're just not going to come in a finer shape in this tournament. And again, you play Vietnam and Japan ahead of you. Like I can't see where it goes right. But again, the streets of Perth, the streets of Sydney. I don't know what it's like on the Gold Coast, but the Gold Coast is a multicultural city, yeah? Like, there are going to be Indians in their droves, and I just hope they can have something to celebrate, whether it be a player, whether it be just some sick highlight reel, whether it be a viral TikTok at full time. Like, let's bring it on. Jaya hey.
Yeah, hopefully they can. Actually, looking at some of the stats from that tournament, which from their one match they played against Iran,
it was a 0-0.
It was 0-0. Yeah. But because of the way it played out, and this maybe has resulted in my memory playing tricks on me for this. The stat, you had to dig really deep to find them on the AFC website because they've tried to bury them. completely. They had 64% possession in that game against Iran, 24 shots, 5 on target.
Yeah.
Like, so they actually put up a much better showing than I remember, and I think it's probably just because the fact that they were withdrawn after one game because of COVID. Like, I don't actually remember too much about their performance.
The whole tournament, the stadiums were really like these really picturesque locations on the coast in Mumbai. Like it was set up for it to just be like Indian women's soccer is gonna boom, like. And cricket still found a way to steal the spotlight again. And like, do you know what I mean? Like, it just sucks. It sucks, and I feel really terrible for them. I don't know if there is any foreign influence in the team. I'm just gonna jump on Wikipedia and sheet for a second because I know again, like the German because of the whole COVID thing, the German coach couldn't stick around, and that's the kind of thing where like the football education system in India. Let me put it this way, Poletti, I have personally been involved to do some like on the ground work in India. I'm hardly a tactico. These are the standards. Like they all they care about is some sort of foreign influence or foreign kind of intervention into the game to get it going. And yeah, look, they've got, I believe, they've got a Spanish Costa Rican. Their coach is Costa Rican. That's bizarre. Okay. I could not. You could have given me like 150 countries. You or I were not going to guess that a Costa Rican is coaching the Indian national team. But yeah. Anyway. Sorry, I don't want to repeat myself now. I think I've said everything that needs to be said.
We'll move on to Taiwan then. Champions in 1977, 1979, and 1981. But in the, I guess you'd say, again, the more modern format of the tournament, their best result has been runners-up. They made the quarterfinals in 2022, Matt.
I am, just on a personal note, because I've met him 3 times, I am personally devastated for Chung Hoo-min. That guy, just every presser, every training session, legend. Whatever, if he still is involved on the ground in Taipei, just total legend of the game in Asia, and really, really wish him the best. But it was clear the team had to take another direction with not just with the coaching, but with the fact that like they reached their ceiling just about. Yep. They were kind of that 6th, 7th best. They made the global playoffs, and to have come up against, was it Paraguay or Panama, a country that was World Cup quality essentially, at the playoffs in Hamilton. It was kind of like a boxing fight with one hand but tied behind your back sort of area. So yeah, I do just worry with how far they can go, because again that ceiling is quite limited. You pair them on paper with Vietnam in the group, and it's just you are naturally going to struggle to see a brighter kind of future for the team. So within their rebuild, let's just see how it goes. But yeah, again, just one of those teams where we can probably predict how it's going to go. So go out there and surprise us. And again, for cultural reasons, a pretty dedicated Taiwanese fan base.
All right. Well, the part of the episode that you've all been waiting for. If you're still tuned in, we absolutely appreciate you still being tuned in throughout what's actually been a longer recording than Matt and I actually had penciled in.
40 minutes, bloody hell.
We'll go to the power rankings themselves. Now, Matt, who have you got in number 12? I fear you may have given it away about halfway through the episode.
Yeah, look, it's Bangladesh. And in the interest of time, I don't think we need to elaborate because I've spoken enough about it. Look, again, if they pull out 1 or 2 goals, have a special moments, there was obviously a reason why the Myanmar result occurred. I think again, you're going to get a team that's really ferocious, that'll play without a lot of fear, and just full power to them.
Yep. All right. I'll head to team number 11 now.
Look, it's India. Unfortunately, it is. Like in my head, I kind of go through this thing where I'm thinking, oh well, we know who the top 6 are. Let's put that team 7th. And then you get to a team like India, and you're like, oh yeah, they'll be a smoky for the quarterfinals. And then you look at it and you realize, nah, Iran are definitely better. Taipei are definitely better. Vietnam are streets ahead of them. Okay, this team doesn't really have a lot of places to go. And again, much like Taipei, they're rebuilding. They had a better window in the last cycle. So you look at that, and there's just nowhere else to go.
All right, and then number 10.
Yeah, look, it's tough because I think Iran, if they were more of an attacking force, like if they had actually played a game where it's like, oh, I've actually seen them put the 1 or 2 goals, in the back of the net, I'd have that confidence. But when you look at the friendlies they've been playing, where we've seen some of these other countries sort of punch and play a team from a different continent, or just simply have a game where they've been able to go on the front foot. Like, we've seen that from Iran in zero capacity. And for girls that are learning their trade on 5-a-side courts, for a team that's, 4th in the world in futsal at the moment, why are these girls not more naturally talented? Why are they not good on their feet? Why are they playing so defensively in the 11-a-side game? I don't get it. It's to their own detriment, but I understand that in a group with the Matildas and South Korea in it, it probably will be necessary.
Yep, so Iran in 10th. I'm going to take a wild stab here and say that you've got Uzbekistan in 9th.
Yeah, and again, it's mostly similar reasons, right? Like, we just don't have the case study, or at least I didn't think we had the case study, because initially I was actually going to put Uzbekistan very low. I then looked over at least, like, if we're looking over the past sort of 4 years or so, you see why they've had an emergence out of nowhere. Remembering again, their last Asian Cup was in 2003. They've then had the form to be able to go and make the Olympic qualifying semi-final against the Matildas, which was a huge, overachievement. They go to Melbourne, they lose 10-0. So the golfing class is clear. But they've had some really weird results. Like, they played Zambia. Remember, this is the same Zambia team that at the Olympics had the 6-5 result against the Matildas.
Don't remind me of that game.
No. I just, but Uzbekistan scored and held their own. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, okay, I've actually got to put Uzbekistan pretty highly then. I still have not seen, strictly in the AFC context, where any of that confidence and goals comes from. But clearly it's hiding in there somewhere. And when you've got Bangladesh to play, they'll probably have a few goals in them. So I bumped them up a fair bit just on that.
Yep. Team number 8. Who have you got in 8th place in the power rankings?
Yeah, look, again, Chinese Taipei are just with their East Asian pedigree probably safe enough. Now, again, in the interest of not seeing enough from Uzbekistan or Iran, they're going lower, but enough of a wily campaign. Again, like, I've put India 11th on that transitional period sort of basis. You kind of got to make the same argument. I think in the sense that I'm going to put them 8th, I think, yes, if they were to sort of match up against all of these India, Iran, Uzbekistan teams, you'd see a myriad of different results. It would matter on the conditions and things like this. Do you know what I mean? But that is an extremely, extremely, extremely distant 8th, now that I'm looking at it. And the issue is this tournament's going to have quarterfinals, so we are going to see an 8th team that makes the knockouts, finishing 3rd, potentially with a horrendous goal difference. And I think, again, off their pedigree, you've just got to, on merit, give that slot to Chinese Taipei. Yep,
fair enough. 7th.
Oh, the ASEAN teams. Just give it to Vietnam because of Vietnam's ability to go pretty haywire when things go wrong. The Philippines did get flogged by Switzerland in the same vein that Vietnam suffered that 7-1 loss. But I'll be honest with you, New Zealand and Switzerland were playing out a really tense 0-0. The Philippines were already out. Sorry, it wasn't Switzerland, it was Norway. And that was also a Norway team that had been playing pretty poorly for the rest of the tournament. That 6-0 was a combination of complacent Philippines and just deadly, top-tier European Norway. So I think again, the Philippines have only ever had one game like that in the entire 5 years. that they've really been building as a project, right? When they set up that camp in Irvine, California, a lovely town that I'm hoping to visit in a couple of months. But yeah, look, I'm just going to go with 6 and say six is the Philippines. And I just think if we're giving it to Vietnam, it's solely to do with the back line. Just a few too many goals to leak.
Yep. Okay, so you've mentioned the Philippines in 6. Who have you got in number 5?
Yeah, look, and again, this is where much better than everyone else, not going to reach that top 4, and it is obviously South Korea. Now, again, if the KFA really just see it as a marketing opportunity, yeah, we've got the actress and singer that plays Mira in K-pop Demon Hunters at this opening ceremony and concert. Now, obviously, mixing, a 7-year-old Australian girl's 2 favourite things in K-pop Demon Hunters and the Matildas. Yeah, the organisers knew exactly what they were doing, and to be honest, my sister and niece, I think, asked for tickets. Yeah, look, it's going to be freaking awesome. That opening game in Perth. It's against the Philippines, by the way. It's not against South Korea. I don't even know why I'm mentioning this. But I guess it's just like that cultural impact. That boom is a really big thing. And I just think this is a team that's going to play with a lot of confidence. And it's the KFA really are going to, I think, see the metrics of that at the very least. Like, are we saying that the players are going to come out and be signing, millionaire deals where they're on the same footing as Son Heung-min? No. But, were any of us even asking for that? Like, the KFA's just got to get their heads out of their ass, like, for goodness sake. The individual quality is there, yeah? Look back on the tournament that they played at the World Cup. What frustrates me with South Korea is, they were in the Germany, Colombia, Morocco group. Could it have been any harder? You had an elite European team that was playing a bit poorly. You had, Linda Caicedo, literally the football goat for 2 weeks, and then you had this fearless Morocco team that were just chaos merchants. And again, it is a really dire state, looking on global football, that a country like Morocco can have a better women's program than somewhere like South Korea. But this is the message, yeah? Step up, make something of yourselves. The players who deserve that platform, the domestic teams that need to find their way and do better to grow the game. This is really the starting point, the platform. So go out there, perform as proudly as you can. Look, the Philippines game, if they're good enough and they go out and win it, then the sky's the limit. So you comfortably put them in at 5. And by the way, if they end up getting usurped by the Philippines, it's probably to do with all of what's been going on. So yeah, you could actually put them down to 6, but for humanity's sake, let's hope we don't see South Korea falling to those lows.
Yep, my memories of South Korea at the 23 World Cup, I should say, not the Asian Cup, the World Cup extend to that Tuesday 12 p.m. kickoff in Sydney against the aforementioned Colombia, and the fact that they were also based in Campbelltown throughout the tournament, and I'd just be randomly going about my day and just seeing members of the South Korean women's national team like it was normal. Gosh, I miss the World Cup. We'll move on in our power rankings. Number 4.
The one that has majority red on its flag.
So that would be China. We're going to go to China in 4th.
Is it the one with the blue stripes on the top? I don't know. You tell me. No, actually make the decision. Poletti, make the decision for me, because I'm
okay. In which case, I'm going to say we'll go North Korea in 4th and China in 3. And I'm making that purely based on the fact that we don't know what to expect from the senior North Korean team, purely because of the lack of football they've played at international tournaments over the last decade and a half. At least with China, we have some semblance of what we're going to get, even if they're sort of in a transition period. Might be the word.
I think the thing for North Korea is when they bounce back onto the scene, they're at that the Asian Games. The Asian Games were held in China, yeah. So China's home tournament. North Korea were winning games like 3-4-0, beat China in the final, and I'd have the inkling to put North Korea 3rd, but you're 100% right. It would be ridiculous to say that the next best team behind Japan and Australia is this team that ostensibly we still really actually know nothing about. So, no, I think you're right. Pop them fourth, but not with a lot of confidence. And then look with China, I worry that they are almost going to get a bit of a free pass to the final, and I don't really want it to happen for the same reason that I kind of just sat there bashing the fact that they won the 2022 tournament. I just think that the metrics-wise, the continent has a lot more to offer. The global world of football, it's like with us, yeah? People know going into this next Men's World Cup that Qatar are going to be absolutely nothing in that group with Canada on home soil, the likes of an Italy or a Wales and Switzerland, right? People just are not putting stock into the fact that that's the two-time reigning Asian champions. And when the football world collectively saw how just terrible they were at the World Cup, when they saw this team that went to England and got battered, like that cannot be the face of AFC football. That can't be a team winning silverware. And I don't want to bash the people that are putting the program in the right directions. Like China's just had a huge corruption scandal that's ruined half the league. The whole CSL are going into the league on like -5 and -10 points. But there is this really awesome influx of Australian culture and Australian cultures and Australian coaches. They're about to influx the men's game, and of course through Ante Milicic with the women's game as well. And that, to me, for the first time, kind of seems like Chinese football is stopping with the ego and putting pragmatism first. So in the spirit of that pragmatism, I'm okay with seeing that bit of success. I just, they are the Qatar of the women's game. And I think that's a very fair comparison, Poletti. Good enough to be a finalist, sure. They have things about them that people like. They are not the best team in the continent. Don't be stupid.
All right, and then we've got 2 spots remaining, 2 and 1. I believe you gave it away a little bit earlier in the episode, but I'm going to take a wild stab and say Australia 2, Japan 1.
Great. And again, look, I'm worried because when you reflect on 2022, look, obviously Tony was prone to just really, really dumb decisions. We know that. That full strength team 18-0 defeat of Indonesia was easily the stupidest thing he's ever done. And Joe's better than that. I know he is, but I even reflect on, and you were there, funnily enough I wasn't. Look at the loss to Panama and Bunbury. That is the kind of thing that's still in the Matildas' sort of locker. And I really don't like the idea of sitting here and saying, yeah, all the games are going to be sellouts. They are going to be on CommBank ads left, right, and centre. They are going to be on merchandise. They are going to get the Sam Kerr, Steph Catley Lego set. The girls are going to be everywhere again, and I can't wait. This just isn't a team that we can confidently sit here and say, yeah, this is the time to finally break the hoodoo and get the silverware. I mean, it is, but there's just so much going on. There's just too much to question, and it scares me. It just feels like this has been coming for such a long time, and Joe never got the ingredients right with the team to play, with the combinations, which players were in, which players were out. And Poletti, this is where I know you've just got thoughts coming out the wazoo. So I'm going to pass it to you. Why are the Matildas the second best team in this tournament?
I think you need to take a look at what happened at the Sheba Leaves Cup. I can't get that memory of the Matildas, a reasonably close to full strength Matildas, getting absolutely flogged by Japan and completely run off the park. We said it already. The tournament is set up for basically semi-finals. They're going to collide. I don't know if Joe Montemuro has done enough to, in the time that he's had with this team, work out how to beat Japan. And you and I have spoken in the past at length about, actually, it might not have been you. I might have been speaking with Kieran Yap. Actually, it was Kieran Yap I've been speaking to, but I think we have discussed it a little bit in the past. The idea, like the Leah Blaney factor, the Leah Blaney factor in that her whole premise with the under-20s was, how do we beat Japan? How do we get as good as Japan? It wasn't looking to a Germany or an England or a Spain or the United States. It was, how do we beat the best team in our own confederation? It's something that a lot of coaches just haven't done in the past with Australia. I wonder, like I said, I have full faith that Joe is going to pick the best team available. I have full faith that Joe will be able to put together game plans in place to get this team clicking throughout the tournament. My big worry is just that Japan has the talent to do it better, and Japan will do it better. And unfortunately, if things play out the way they're supposed to play out, which is Japan are going to top Group C and Australia are going to top Group A, that it's going to be a semi-finals exit, which after the 2023 Women's World Cup, another semi-finals exit on home soil.
In a tournament this tin pot,
it's going to suck for a lot of people, and yet it almost feels like it would be the right result. Please don't come at me. Please don't come at me. Like don't at me. But like,
mate, we were always talking about, like, Australian football needs to wake up for reason X, Y, and Z, right? Like, and again, we saw it with the Socceroos, how quickly they were able to bounce from, we just got thrashed by Japan in Sydney. And literally it was like snap of a finger, we've made it to the World Cup. And then another snap of the finger, before you even had a second to take a breath, we made the World Cup round of 16 with a team within the same calendar year that was told they had no chance of being at the World Cup. Things can change in a dime, and this is the message, right? Like you need the wake-up call, but with the right planning, the right execution, and let me go on record as saying Joe is the individual for that. Do you know what I mean? Like I was, the West Australian in me was really hoping they somehow got Tanya Oxtoby for it, but I now see that, you know, maybe it was a bit dated in terms of her, like, elite experience, and probably it wasn't going to be the right fit for certainly a transition period. With Joe, like, I think there is just a lot of trust. There's a lot of guts. I think both national teams right now just have individuals that the whole of Australian football can look at and just be really quite confident in. So, and also, if you don't mind, quick shout from me, because I know Leah Blaney made the swap to Japan. Is Midori Honda free? She brought Uzbekistan out of obscurity. And if there is, like, a Japanese individual I would want to scalp, please make this one of the big shorts. Midori, give us a call.
Well, that is our power rankings for the upcoming Women's Asian Cup. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Where would you have put certain teams? Do you think the Matildas are going to go on and win it all? Can they beat Japan? Or will Japan be too powerful for Australia? Will China be a dark horse run?
Is India going to win the Asian Cup?
I mean, maybe. Maybe they will. Tournament football is a very funny thing, as we found out in 2023 here on home soil with the Women's Asian Cup. But for Matt Olsen, my name is Poletti. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Dubcast. Don't forget, plenty of content to keep you entertained throughout the entirety of the Women's Asian Cup. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time.